Hey everyone, blessings. I hope that you are all doing well. In this video, I will be discussing how to break the cycle of struggle. This video is for those of you out there who feel like you're stuck, like you're in this perpetual pattern of not progressing and not moving forward in life. This is something that most of us go through, and it's a season. But if you feel like you've been stuck in a season a little bit too long, month after month, year after year, then there's some steps that you need to consider that you may not have considered before. So if that's you, and if you feel that way, this is the video for you. You know, living life is not easy, and there's always something that we need to overcome, some struggle, some problems, some issues. But when you're stuck in that thing, it's hard to be encouraged and to stay encouraged, and it's tough. So I'm going to discuss a few things that could possibly be helpful to you if you find yourself in this boat, and some things for you to think about, that some actionable steps that could help you along the way if you feel like you're in this cycle of struggle. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I want you to keep in mind is that we're all in a program. Our family programs us from the time that we're born. So we're programmed in our family of origin. We're programmed in society. We're programmed with this technology and with social media, and there's all kinds of messages, subliminal, and things that we don't even know, that's wiring our brains to think a certain way. We're programmed by our cultures and by our governments. We're programmed by systems. We're programmed by religion. That's a big one. Religion programs a lot of people. So sometimes these programs are good, and oftentimes they're bad, because these programs actually they're constructed and they're in our lives for control, right? And as we grow as human beings, we have to figure out if we're on a program, and if this program of control is keeping us back and holding us back from progressing as we should. And sometimes these programs can be very oppressive, cultural ones, systemic ones in our society. Religious ones can be, very detrimental to us. So you have to know that and even me, we're on some sort of program. So when I discovered the programs that I was on, actually I was quite young. I was about 9 years old, and I grew up in a pretty tough environment and one of the toughest neighborhoods in New York City. And I was about 9, and I looked around in my environment, and I just said to myself, I said, something is not right. People are behaving perpetually in this cycle of destruction, and behaving in a way that's not good and not helpful, behaving in a way where they're basically destroying themselves. And I'm like, what is going on? And I discovered that these people, and even myself, were stuck in a program. Society deprives neighborhoods and different groups of people of certain things, and that deprivation, people act out of desperation. And then there's these messages that we're given, this is because of the color of your skin, or because of your culture, because of your race, and because of your religion, this is the way that you're supposed to behave, and you're less than other people. So then there's these messages that's coming through in society, through news cycles, through the media, through television, telling you who you are. It's a program. It's a program. And you know what? You can deprogram yourself and set up the type of life that you want to live. This is all possible, but if you want to come out of the cycle of struggle, you have to take a good look over your life and determine, am I in a program of destruction? Am I in a program that has me set up to struggle for the rest of my life? If you're in a program, and when I discovered that I was on a program, I had to break it, and I had to decolonize my mind. I had to rewire my thinking about myself and about who I was. And I had to really get connected to God to get into that frame of mind to get there. So just remember, you're on, and I was even on, and probably still to some extent, on some type of program. But when you find that you're in this cycle, It could be a program. So that's number one. Number two, it's important for us to know and to understand what our purpose is. And we have to begin to live intentionally. So if you're struggling, if you're trying to get ahead and you're trying to do little things, and it's hard for you to do little things that are manageable, that you feel that you can do, and it feels like something is just, that means it's time, if you don't know your purpose, to find out what your purpose is. Purposeful people, they find a way to get out of that loop and to get out of that stronghold of struggle. So if you're a person of purpose, it's hard. It'll be hard for you to remain in that cycle of struggle, because when you're purposeful, you're moving ahead. When you're purposeful, you're intentionally living. So you have to live on purpose and with a purpose. And when you begin to do that, that is one of the key things that will break a cycle of struggle. Many people out here struggling because they don't know what they were put on this planet to do. But when you figure out and you determine what those things are, and you begin to live life intentionally, you will begin to break all of those chains of struggle, all of those things that have been holding you back. So intentional living and purposeful living is one of the key things of breaking the cycle of struggle. The third thing is, this is something that's sort of like outside of our control. It could be things outside of you, spiritual, and I call it spiritual interference. That could be having you in this loop of perpetual struggle, right? So that means, as I discuss on my channel in many of my videos, you have to do the spiritual work, because there's spiritual interference. So what do I mean by that? Well, just like I believe we all have guardian angels and looking out for us and helping us out and protecting us, there's also evil spirits and demons there to hold us back, and spiritual evil interference that's there to keep us where we are, right? So just like God has assigned guardian angels and angels over us to protect us, Satan and the devil, he's also assigned demons and evil spirits to hinder us and to get in our way and to create stumbling blocks and to hold us back. So there are evil forces in the world spiritually that, these things come into a form of, maybe generational curses or some sort of demonic oppression that's in our lives that could be holding us back and keeping us in the loop of this struggle. So when we begin to do the spiritual work, and this is how you break those chains, you get connected to God, you get delivered and set free. That will stop all of those things from the underworld and those evil things that have been interfering in your life. It will stop those things from holding you back, right? So these things come in, they could come in forms of mental health issues, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it's a brain and chemical thing operating, and sometimes there's thoughts and things that come into your mind. That's from the evil one. It's not you. It's from outside of you, right? Influences and things that, temptations that come your way, right? That keep you in that loop, and loops of addiction and mental health struggles and financial things. And you see things and patterns in your family that's generational, epigenetic stuff, right? And you see it over and over again, and now it's attacking you. That's spiritual interference. And the way to break that is to get as close as you can to God through prayer, through fasting, through reading the word, through deliverance, going to church, connecting with, people who are really spiritual, people who are really mature in Christ. They can help you out. But sometimes when we're in that cycle of struggle, you find yourself, financially bound. You can't get ahead, and you can't focus and move ahead. You're trying to, get that degree and get a particular job and get your life set up. And there's this hindrance and this stumbling block. It could be spiritual. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing I want you to think about is think better. It's important for us to think about the things that we're thinking about, and oftentimes we're in a cycle of struggle because our thinking and our thoughts are negative and they're not good, right? So we have to begin to change our mind and to think more positively, right? And when we begin to think better, that's one of the things that will help and aid in breaking that cycle of struggle. And because if you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself, and maybe things that other people have told you, that you're not good for anything, and that you only achieve but so much, and you're not this or you're not that, you have to begin to think, yes, I am this, I am all of that, and I can achieve the things that I want to achieve in my life, and I can move ahead. But if you're not thinking that you can, guess what? You won't. So it's very important for you to think about what you've been thinking about. And if all the thoughts and the things that are entering your head, if they're negative, you've got to counter that stuff. And this is something that I've struggled with in my life and sometimes continue to struggle with. But I've learned, and I'm still learning, how to counter those negative thoughts and replace it with a positive thought. So when we begin to think better, we begin to do better. And by doing better, we begin to break those cycles of struggle. So that's number 4, think better. Number 5, be a person that is dedicated to growth, right? So if you're a person who is dedicated to self-development and growing, if you are a growing person, it is going to be hard for you to stay where you are and stay in a state of struggle. Because when you grow, that means you are leveling up. You're going to the next level. When you grow out of something, remember when you were a little kid and you used to grow fast, and every year, it was a different shoe size and a different, pant size and shirt size and what have you, right? As you grew and got bigger and eventually you became an adult, right? So that's how it should be for us each and every year, right? So as we grew in shoe size and in clothing size, that means we couldn't stay where we were. We had to level up and get to the next size. And that's the same thing in life, right? We have to continue to develop our minds, develop spiritually, even develop physically, right? So these are the things that, that will help us to break that cycle of struggle. And that is being a person that is dedicated to growth. A growing person cannot stay where they are. Number 6, visualization. If what you want in life, whatever it is, if it's not in your consciousness, if it's not, going back to thinking better, if it's not in your mind, if you're not visualizing it, if you're not imagining the type of life that you want, if things in life are hard right now, if you've been struggling, if hard times, you've been, year after year, decade after decade, month after month, it's just been hard times. And if it's not one thing, it's another thing. It's time to also start to visualize the type of life that you want, even if things are pretty terrible right now. Trust me, I've done this and I've seen the change, and everything that I put into my mind and that I visualized and that was in my consciousness, it came to pass. So it's like you could pray about things and ask God about things, and we absolutely should. I mean, if we're truly people of faith and we turn it over to God, God is going to do his part. But part of us doing our part, so God has his part and we have our part. So part of us doing our part is we have to imagine it and have faith and visualize that thing and act like it's going to happen, even when it's not happening, even when all your bills are due and you don't know where the money is going to come from. You don't know how you're going to get to point A to point B. You don't know how you're going to finish school. You don't know how certain relationships are going to improve. You don't know how you're going to just, level up in life. Begin to visualize and imagine the type of life that you want. And when you do those things, that will start to break the chains of struggle. Number seven, be grateful. Yes, gratitude is a major thing of breaking the cycle of struggle. When we sit around and we complain and whine all day. We're ruminating and we're basically binding ourselves to whatever we're struggling with. The more that we dwell on it, the more that we think about it, the more that we complain about it. But, and I'm not saying not be realistic. If you're hurting, if you're in pain, if you're struggling, it is what it is. But even when you're going through that tough time, it's very important to learn how to be grateful. We have to learn to be grateful outside of when we're happy. It's real easy to be grateful and thankful for the things that we have, and praising God about the things that we have when things are good, going well for us, when times are happy. But I want you to learn to be grateful through the tough times, because that builds character, that builds strength, and it just does wonders. And it will begin. Gratitude is one of those things, believe it or not, that will begin to change your current reality. But you can't change your reality when you're dwelling on what's going on all day and all night. And guess what? When you do that, that is going to bind you and chain you to that situation. But when you begin to be grateful for the things that you have, regardless of how small it is, even if it's just, God, you bless me. You woke me up this morning. I didn't have to be awake. God, you bless me with food. At least I could eat one meal. I remember there were times when, it would just be that one meal for me. Wasn't much in the bank account. I struggling to pay bills, but I paid them. By the grace of God, I squeaked by. But there were months where I was short, and I was like, God, how am I going to do it? There was times in my life, I was struggling, mental health with depression, and I didn't think that I would see the other side. And God blessed me, and I got the right resources, and he delivered me. There was a spiritual component to that, and there was also a biological and physical things that I needed to do to maintain good mental health. So there was a combination for me. Could be the same for you out there, if you're struggling mentally and emotionally, and not just in circumstance. But as I began to thank God through those tough times and be grateful for every little thing that I could think of, that I could be grateful for, even when it was a lot to not be grateful for. When I began to do that, that's when the cycle of struggle, when I began to get out of that loop, and God began to deliver me out of certain situations. So number 7, being grateful is a major thing. The last thing I want to say, it's important to have a plan. That's number 8. Have a plan. Have a plan. Begin to execute, and step by step, take actionable steps, and know what you're going to do and how to get out of that cycle. And if you're not sure how to do that, and you don't know where to begin and what to do, one of the major ways that I was able to do that for myself, I'm just using myself as an example, I began to pray and ask God and the Holy Spirit for guidance and direction. And when you don't know what to do, you go to God. And oftentimes I would say that when you're open to God and his suggestions, he will bring resources to you and people to you. You have to do the work. You have to do the work for yourself. When you begin to do the work, God will give you a plan and show you the way, and, also using your own God-given intelligence. Some things we just don't have to pray about. Use your intellect and look at what others are doing, and see how they got out of a similar situation as you, and maybe that can help you out. Just maybe reading the right books or speaking to the right people, and maybe joining some support groups. There's things out there for you, but you have to have a plan if you plan to get out of this cycle of struggle. If it's for example, many people struggle financially. If it's a financial situation, whatever it is, if you have a lot of debt, credit card debt or what have you, student loan debt or what have you, come up with a plan. You come up with a plan, you can more easily get out of it, right? You've been owing people, take a second job, do what you have to do temporarily to pay off those debts, or get a better job so you can get more money, more income, so you can, live better. And if In order to get another job, maybe you got to get a certificate or go back to school. I mean, you have to have a plan, whatever the plan is, you know. If situations in, the country that you live in or where you live or the state, you may have to maybe leave your country or leave your state or leave your city for a better life. That might be an option for you, but you need to have a plan, actionable steps to take, because a better life is not going to fall into your lap and you're just not going to walk into it, right? So have a plan. So that's what I wanted to share with you about how to break the cycle of struggle. Understand that we're all on some sort of program, and you may have to deprogram yourself. Live with a purpose, live intentionally. That's number 2. Number 3, there could be some spiritual interference. So you may need deliverance, and you may have to do that spiritual work with the Lord. Number 4, we have to think better, begin to change your mind. Number 5, be a person that is dedicated to growth, because a growing person is a person that will not stay where they are. Number 6, visualize and imagine the type of life that you want. Number 7, be grateful. And number 8, have a plan. That's what I want to share with you in this video. Take care. God bless. And I will see you in the next one.